Hey everyone, my name's Soul. Some of you might know me already from the other few videos I've done about trans men. For those who don't, check them out. They're pretty cool. At least I think so. But this video is going to be all about needle phobia and what it is. I've had needle phobia for a long time, at least since I was about 12 years old. And I have to say, for those people who are starting to think, oh, needle phobia is just a fear of needles, it's technically you're right. Technically, it is a fear of needles, but it goes beyond just simply a simple fear. It is a full blown phobia where people. There are two types of needle phobics out there. There are the needle phobics where they faint, they pass out, they black out, they literally go unconscious. That kind of needle phobia is typically the more common kind I think you hear about. And yeah, it's a serious problem because passing out's not good for anyone. Especially when you're trying to get a shot, trying to get your blood drawn, causes a lot of problems. The other needle phobia, the kind I have personally, panic attacks. It's not, oh my god, I can't stand the needle. It's hyperventilating. It's you can't breathe right. Your heart is pounding like crazy. It is an instinctual fight or flight response. It's, for me personally, I have to get out of there. My body is telling me this is not safe. It's not just fear, it's that feeling of being unsafe, of impending doom. And yeah, to some people that does sound pretty extreme, but you have to understand though, I don't choose to feel that way. There's no reason, naturally, I should be afraid of needles that much. And I've talked to a therapist about this, and it turns out I actually have PTSD thanks to a doctor. Yeah, a doctor did this when I was 12. For those of you who've never met me before, I'm going to tell you the story. Hopefully, some people who actually know the story will watch this. But when I was about 12 or 13, I went in for an annual checkup, I think it was. I don't remember there being anything specific other than, oh, let's check your weight, check your vitals, that kind of thing. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to hide the doctor's name. That was Dr. Koopman of Columbus, Indiana. I walk in his office. My mom's with me. Does a normal checkup, checks my heart, checks my lungs, whatnot. A seemingly normal checkup, right? He says he's going to be right back. Comes back and he has his hand behind his back. And there's a nurse with him. Now, usually, nurses, when they come into the doctor's office with the doctor, they're usually just there to grab some papers, grab the charts, that kind of thing. They can also be there to help give a shot. That's what she was doing. Even though my mother was a nurse, and she still is, because she wasn't at the hospital and she wasn't, like on duty or anything, I don't think the doctor could have let her help, even if she offered. But here's the kicker. She didn't know. I've talked to her multiple times about this. She did not know he was going to give me a flu shot that day. No one knew but him and the nurse. Everybody but me and my mom knew, basically, it seems like. And the nurse came over and she held my arm. She used one of those like cold swab things to clear the space, so they were going to give me the shot. Okay, that's fine. Then she held me. She gripped me about right here, and she gripped me pretty tight. It kind of hurt. Not like, oh, this is extremely painful hurt, just enough that you could tell she was using a significant amount of force to actually, hold me. My mom, I'm going to guess, and she's not really sure either. It's been so long ago. I'm 25 now. This happened when I was like 12, 13, so well over a decade now. My mom held my other arm. And I think it's because she's a nurse as well. So she's used to giving patients shots. She's used to putting IVs in their arms. So my mom held my arm, probably without thinking. Probably just an innate reaction of, okay, here's a patient getting a shot. And not that my mom didn't care about me, but again, just, well, just a reaction, an instinctual reaction for her, because that might have been part of her job. Doctor comes towards me with the needle, and I start backing away. Instead of simply letting me calm down, explaining why I needed that flu shot, because he did not explain, at least I don't recall him explaining it. He might have, and over the years I just forgot. But he tried to give me a flu shot. Never got it that day. The nurse held me down. She held me there. They tried to give me the shot. Didn't work. I actually started fighting them. I hate that. I was not even a teenager, probably, because I seriously think I was about in between my 12th and 13th birthday. I wasn't even a teenager, let alone an adult. Who could have consented to that? Which I wouldn't have with how they acted. But I fought them. Plain and simple, I fought them. I didn't know they were going to give me that shot. I didn't know I knew what they were doing, but that bare instinct part of my mind, the fight or flight response, kicked in that day. And I remember at one point, Dr. Koopman was holding my arm and the nurse wasn't. She was the one trying to give me a shot. She got behind my back, which has created a very, very deep mistrust of people getting behind me now that I have all these years later. And it took an ungodly long time to figure out what caused that. And that honestly saddens me. Not just for myself, but there's other people that are going through similar things. But she got behind me, and I think she tried sticking me, probably in the butt or something. I knocked the needle out of her hand. Doctor said, stop. She stopped. He let us go. I remember walking out in that waiting room. My mom, she was livid. Once she got over the initial shock of what was going on, she was livid. Doctor didn't tell her. My mom, the legal guardian didn't even know what was going on. So yeah, I'd be livid too if it was my kid. Well, I remember there was a dad out there, probably with his kid. I'm gonna guess. I know there was a couple other people out there and a couple kids out there. So I'm gonna guess because he was sitting by himself, his kid was over there playing with one of the toys in the waiting room. I had been screaming my head off. I come out there and there are tears running down my face and everything. I bet you money he thought they were abusing me. And honestly, I probably would have thought the same thing if that had been me sitting in that chair, seeing another kid come out. And years later, I shouldn't be, but I am kind of embarrassed. But at the same time, I feel like it was justified, considering what happened. So my needle phobia is part of PTSD. And it's not, and I don't have a fear of sewing needles. I can sew just fine. I mean, I'm crappy at it, but I have no issue doing it. I have no issue sewing. I'm actually taking a leatherworking class right now. Well, I mean, not at this exact moment, but I'm signed up for a leatherworking course. And at some point, I know I'm probably going to have to learn how to, well, maybe not have to learn, but I am going to learn how to embroider it, how to add some kind of threading to it, or how to attach or how to stitch pieces together. I can tell you right now, other than the initial difficulty of sewing with leather, I'm not going to have a problem using a sewing needle. They don't scare me. But I can't get my blood work done. Years later, when I was about 20, right after I turned 21, I found out I was pregnant. So I was happy, but I was also very terrified because in pregnancy, there are so many blood tests. You gotta check for your blood sugar levels. So to see if if you have gestational diabetes. You've got to check your blood type. You've got to check if you're Rh positive or negative. I really cannot remember everything they were supposed to check for, but they couldn't check for a single thing. Dr. Dean of Tucson, Arizona, where I was living at the time, Oh my God, she was a lifesaver. She was not happy that I couldn't take a needle, but instead of being like the majority of doctors here in the US, at least as far as I've seen and heard, she didn't force me to sit down and get a blood test. She didn't force me one bit. All she said is, try. And because I was pregnant, they were unable to give me any kind of anxiety meds, even one-time medications, to ever get my blood work done. So I went, let me think, 8 months. I went 8, almost 9 months without ever getting my blood checked or anything. My doctor was not happy, but yet not once did she ever press me for it. Amazing doctor. If God forbid, and I know some of you guys are going to hate me for this, if God forbid I'd ever get pregnant again, if I could go back to her, because I don't live there anymore, I would. And anybody in Tucson that gets pregnant, I send them to her because she was that amazing. But at the beginning of my pregnancy, she had me see a therapist for this. Now that therapist, they didn't know what was causing NeedlePhobia. They gave me tips and tricks for dealing with it, such as desensitizing. I'm pretty sure that's the word she used. She had me write down different things I could have done. So like a card one over here would have been looking at pictures. And all the way over here at the other end, so like one card's over here, other card's over here, card over here, that would have been actually getting my blood tested. That would have been getting stuck with a medical needle. Never have gotten to that point. I still can barely look at pictures of medical needles. I'm just having that much of a problem. So throughout my pregnancy, I didn't get a single needle done. I did not yet know that this was PTSD, however. My son was born because they induced me. Now, this is the one event that has not made my needle phobia worse because of the situation. I was induced because my son's heart rate dropped. He could have died, and I probably could have too, if they were unable to do anything. And don't think laughing gas is safe to use on pregnant women. So they probably couldn't have done that either. But two nurses, but so when a doctor comes in looking nervous, you know something's wrong. They said your son's heart rate dropped and it was below 100. That's really bad. Doctor comes in nervous. I'm freaking out, and she's like, "Okay, we're gonna get a needle into you now. We get a needle into you now. Your son's gonna be born today." So, two nurses came in and held my arm down. Dr. Dean, she rested her arm right here and got right in my face and made me look at her. And Dr. Dean, if you watch this, I'm not hating on you. I swear to God, I completely understand why you did that. Don't get me wrong. Just at the time, I hated you. I just hated your guts. I won't lie about that. But that was at the time. But I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did that because then my son may not be here. And I may not be here. But after that, after my son was born, I didn't have any issues with anything with needles for a while until that August. Like July, August, I suddenly collapsed with pain at home. I had kidney stones. I had to get a needle in. The anesthesiologist, he was very nice. He was a very nice man. And I wish I could contact him to thank him how nice he was to me that day. Because it really meant a lot to me. He told me, we don't get these stones out, you could lose your kidney. And to me, that was the one time I could ever take a needle, because to me, I can take a needle in a life or death situation. There are some people, however, worse than me, if you can believe that. From what I've read, 1% of the entire adult population is at my level. At least that's what I've read, and it has been a while since I've looked up the exact number. The page I found has not been updated in a while. So, but he stuck a needle about right here. Yeah, That was not painless. You lied to me. No, it's less painful getting up here if you can, but he had to get it on my forearm. Um, really good about it. I got my kidney stones taken out. Woke up a couple hours later. I was fine, and not long after that, me and my wife moved. Uh, long story short, I ended up in the hospital in Coolidge, Arizona. They cornered me. They got me. They more or less forced me to check myself in. You want to argue about that? Get off. Because they more or less did. And I hate them for it. And I wish I would have done something about that when I got out of the hospital. They sent me to a psychiatric hospital. Now, I have grown up in fear of those places for a long time. And I think it's because I read too much horror stories about them. No, this place was a nightmare. I loved the other patients. They were very nice. And if any of you managed to see this, you knew me as Hex back then. I really hope you guys are doing okay. I think about you guys quite often, actually. I may not remember everyone's names, but I really hope you guys are doing okay. But when I was there, I told them I have severe NeedlePhobia. I still did not yet know it was part of PTSD. They were getting blood tests the day I was there. The day I was checked in, I told them I can't get this done. And they're like, okay, if you can't get it done, you can't get it done. They were none understanding, but they weren't exactly mean about it either, I guess. Can't think of a good word to describe it. But everything went fine. I was there for a little over a week until one day, I have an allergy to cinnamon. It sounds a little weird, and apparently it is quite common. I was unaware of that until I talked to a nurse 2 months ago. She told me it's actually a very, very common allergy, which I thought was kind of interesting. But I did not realize the cake I had gotten at lunch that day had cinnamon in it. I took a little bite, and I could feel my throat closing up. I told the orderly that had walked us down to lunch I needed to go back upstairs. I could not go outside with everyone. I had it under control. I had spit the bite out, and I was drinking some cold water. And I think I actually freaked out my roommate who was sitting in front of me. But she told me, get some cold water, let them know, go upstairs. That's what I did. When I get upstairs, I tell the nurses I'm having an allergic reaction to cinnamon. I spit the bite out. I'm drinking some cold water. That is helping. I stress that. I sat in like a common room, I guess. I can't remember if that's what they called it or not. I think that was. I'm not sure. But I told them I'm sitting in the common room. There's a big window that you can see in the entire room. You ever been in a psych hospital, you know what I'm talking about. They could see me. I told them if I feel like it's not improving, I will come take a Benadryl pill. I said, do not, under any circumstances, give me a shot unless you have tried everything and I cannot take a pill. They were only supposed to give me a shot if I was unable to take that Benadryl pill for any reason. I was feeling better within a few minutes. Not 100%, but I had no problems breathing. I just my throat felt thick, I guess. Kind of like when you have a cold, sort of. But instead of mucus, it's swelling. But I could breathe. Nurse comes in there with this big-ass needle, about that big. Yeah, about that big. I jump out of the seat and I back into a corner like a freaking animal. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? She's like, well, you're having an allergic reaction, aren't you? And I said, yes. And did I not tell you you are not supposed to do this until I had a Benadryl pill and it's not worked? Yeah, I hated them. They were terrible. They did not respect me as a patient. They did not respect me as a person, basically. The place was a nightmare for me. But thanks to Michael and one of the other ladies there, they told me what happens when you sign yourself out AMA against medical advice. So no more happened to that. But that incident I wasn't exactly getting better with needles, but I wasn't getting any worse until that incident. Well, here I am, a couple years later, and I'm supposed to start testosterone. I'm a trans man. I want to take testosterone. I have to get a blood test for that. I have several health conditions that need to be checked. I'm possibly diabetic. I actually wonder that a lot. Sometimes I wonder if I have issues with my thyroid or some other issues. I cannot get any of that checked until I get over this needle phobia. But 2 years ago, I had a new therapist and we talked about disorder. It is not just for military personnel, so stop thinking that. Yes, it is true. A lot of military people do end up with it, and I'm so sorry that you guys end up with that. Guys or girls, whoever you are. It's horrible. But it can happen to anyone. I also have it with a car wreck that I had back in 15, 16. But I have PTSD with the needles, and it's created needle phobia. And I met some other people, and it sounds like maybe that's what it is for them too. And I implore them to talk to a therapist about that. Because if it's PTSD, for one, it seems less intimidating. Most importantly, it seems less intimidating. Because there are a lot of therapists that can help with PTSD. Not so many therapists in the US that can help with needle phobia. In fact, a lot of them don't even know that exists. A lot of people mistake needle phobia for just being, oh, you're afraid of needles, instead of, oh, you're afraid of needles. And for those who are wondering what the difference is, what a lot of people say when you have a fear of needles, when you say you're afraid of needles, what a lot of people tell you, oh, just close your eyes. Have someone holding your hand. Listen to some music. Stop telling people that shit. I'm dead serious. It is insulting, for one. Because one, not everybody responds to that. Two, don't you think a lot of us have tried that? Up to this point, I have listened to music. I've held someone's hand. I've had distractions of all kinds. Only one time did it ever work, and that was because I could have lost my kidney and potentially my life. But no, I can't go get a blood test because I can't have a distraction. It doesn't work. I am literally more animal when it comes to that time, because that panic attack, that fight or flight response shows up, and I can't ignore it no matter what I do. My skin literally tightens up when a needle gets close to it. I can almost feel when there's a needle in the room with me. It is terrible. But now to talk more about needle phobia in general. I'm sorry I went on so long about myself. I don't talk to a lot of people about it outside of my family, but my experiences might be yours. My experiences might be your neighbors, might be your cousins, might be that person walking down the street. Even if it's not yours, someone you know, someone you see could have a story similar to mine. And if they do, I hope they're getting help. And I hope and if it's you, I hope you're getting help. And if not, well, I implore you to try. But as for needle phobia in general, like I said earlier, about 1% of the population is so bad, will only go in if it's life or death. No blood drives, no blood tests unless it's absolutely necessary, even though that's a stretch. There are more people terrified of needles to the point it's an actual phobia than we realize. Now, from last I read, like as in I actually looked this up specifically a while ago, there is a school in the UK somewhere where they actually study needle phobia. I guess they actually have treated it like an entirely new mental illness, similar to depression or anxiety. I wish they'd get that here in the US. Our healthcare sucks. I actually have no health insurance right now, and it sucks. I'm trying to get it, but yeah, it sucks. Sometimes I actually think about moving up to Canada, but either way. But there are a lot of people out there, a lot of adults, a lot of children that have needle phobia. And for the adults, people, again, they say, oh, read a book, play a game, listen to some music, hold somebody's hand. It's not going to work. Seriously, stop telling us. As for children, it's children. How often do we as adults actually listen to them? And I don't just mean, oh, your 3-year-old's telling you this fun little story about his stuffed animals he's playing with. And you're, oh, yeah, that's cute. That's really cool. But how often do we actually treat them with all seriousness? Very little. I know as a teenager, not as a little child, like 6 years old, but as a teenager, people didn't listen to me. Not about the needle phobia, but about other things. They treated me like I was a 5-year-old who had something wrong with them. We need to stop doing that, especially when it comes to something as serious as needle phobia. I mean, health in general, we need to start listening to kids about that. But as for needle phobia, we really, really need to listen. Because if we don't, those children are going to grow up with needle phobia that's untreated, and it may be years, if ever, they're able to actually get a needle for any reason. If we can address it when they're young, maybe they won't turn out like me, where I need to get stuff done, but I can't. They won't turn out like the person over there. They need to get stuff done. They can't. The person over there, they need to get stuff done. They can't. We need to start talking to them before they get to that point. And maybe, just maybe, if America actually gets their act together and starts taking the healthcare seriously, maybe they can actually start studying needle phobia themselves. I'm actually thinking of sharing this video with hospitals, nursing schools, so that not only can people start taking, the needle phobics seriously, but they can start training for it. They can start being aware of this before they actually get out into their field. My wife, for instance, she wants to be a nurse. I cannot tell you how happy that makes me for a lot of reasons. One, she's a very kind, caring, and loving person. I can tell it pains her to see people in pain. She is also an LGBT ally, so that really helps. She actually wants to open up a clinic. And we've actually talked about having LGBT specific services. And I myself have thought about getting a couple therapists on board to talk with needle phobia, which can tie into that for some people. But I'm thinking about maybe telling her, take this video to school, share it with them. Granted, not all of this. They may not be able to watch all of this. This is already almost half an hour long. But I can just snip parts of this out that they can listen to. Like this, like maybe this right here. The fact that they need to listen. But our healthcare here isn't trained for this. I cannot tell you how many times I've gone to a doctor. Ooh, here's a good example. You're let's see, it is 2019 now. Back in early 2018, I tried to get my blood drawn to start testosterone treatments. Hormone therapy. My doctor, if she sees this, I'm sorry, I'm about to insult you, but she was an idiot. I told her about my needle phobia. I made her aware that this was PTSD. I told her I need something to calm me down. Because years ago, when I was in the middle of high school, so about like 14 or 15, I think, maybe as old as 16, school made my mother believe vaccinations were required. They didn't tell us until after I got them, oh, these aren't necessary, they're just really strongly recommended. So my mother drugged me up for nothing. I was out of it. I don't know what she gave me, some kind of anxiety medication. But I got a shot that day. I told my doctor about that. I told her I didn't know what I'd been given. And plus, who knows if the same thing would have affected me now. I'm heavier, I'm older, had a kid, so my hormones are like different. But she gave me 5 milligrams of Xanax. I mean, don't get me wrong, Xanax is supposed to help calm me down. 5 milligrams though? For someone who has severe panic attacks? That's not gonna do shit. It was almost comical, I thought, when I first saw the dosage, but I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Let's see how this affects me. I don't know if it was Xanax I had taken before, so maybe it was the same dosage. Who knows? The records were lost, I guess. But she gave it to me. I took it. I felt drowsy. I felt tired. I got into that room and I sat down. I started panicking immediately. I didn't even see the needle. I just knew it was in the room there. Started panicking severely. That medicine did nothing. But not like I expected it to do much in the first place. I was just hoping it would work. And that's what a lot of people do when they're needle phobic, at least as far as I've seen. They'll try taking calming medications, and for some people that works, and I applaud you. And quite frankly, I'm jealous. But we shouldn't rely on medications to let us get blood tests. We shouldn't rely on medications to let us get vaccinations. We need to treat the problem. Whether it's PTSD or simple, just straight needle phobia, we need to treat that, not just put a Band-Aid over it. We need to remove it. We need to cure it. We can't just slap a Band-Aid on it that we're going to end up having to tear off, or that's going to fall off or something. But went on a bit longer than I meant to, and I don't have much more to add, but I am the admin of the NeedlePhobia support page. The other admin, whenever you see this, I'm very sorry I have not messaged you for a while. My own mental health has been down the drain. A lot of crap going on, moved to a new state and everything. For all the people on that page that watch this video, if you have any questions, please send me a message. Soulphallic, Falyk. I can make more videos talking about needle phobia, addressing your issues directly. But since this is the first one, I did want to get my own story out there. And maybe some of you won't feel so alone, or you know someone that's not going to feel so alone because their story is similar to mine. And maybe at some point, I can get some of you guys to do an interview. And this doesn't just go for people on the NeedlePhobia page. This goes for anyone who has this problem. As long as you're respectful and you're not going to be a jackass about the whole thing, please feel free to ask me questions. Feel free to offer to do an interview at some point. And I will do my best with it, because I am trying to go through school and I'm trying to deal with my own mental health, but I can do what I can do what I'm able to. So look me up on Facebook, Soulphallic. Look up for the NeedlePhobia support page. Maybe the other admin can help me do a video sometime where we both talk about it, ask each other questions, that kind of thing. And I am hoping that everyone out there is healthy, well, and gain some insight from this video. Thanks, guys.